Namaste to all. I was reading through an article written by Pandit Sudhakar Chaturvedi. Sudhakar Chaturvedi, I met him around, let's say, 12 years back in Bangalore in Arya Samaj. That time he was the oldest person living in Bangalore. He was 100 plus years and still hale and healthy. He's a Vedic scholar. Chaturvedi means one who is a scholar of all the four Vedas. Not too sure if he's still alive, but then he has written a very, very beautiful article on yajna, especially many people have this false notion that yajna Vedas promote to kill the cow, kill the horse, kill the human beings and sacrifice the yajna. He has written a very, very beautiful article on yajna. He says from many of these mantras, he has explained many mantras. He says it is very evident that according to the Vedas, yajna is a noble act which brings peace and happiness to one and all. In the Vedic literature, we find the significant dictum Yajno vai sreshtatvam karmaha, which means that yajna is the noblest deed. No other deed can even equal it, leave alone excelling it. In fact, it is only yajna that is upholding human values in the world even today. A selfish deed is the antithesis of yajna, which is the sacrificial deed. Further, he writes in English, the word sacrifice means renunciation of something dear and near to the heart with the object of achieving something nobler, something dearer and nearer. The Sanskrit term yajna too means this same. In fact, it means much, much more than this. Peace and happiness decrease in proportion to the increase in the selfish deeds and increase in proportion to the increase in sacrificial deeds. Every selfless noble act directed towards the welfare of the world is indeed a yajna, and inevitably it calls for a measure of sacrifice on the part of the doer. I repeat, every selfless noble act directed towards the welfare of the world is indeed called as yajna, and inevitably it calls for a measure of sacrifice on the part of the doer. It is only for this reason that the word yajna is usually translated as sacrifice in English. In my previous videos, several of my videos, I have told that don't translate yajna as sacrifice, because the moment somebody listens to the word sacrifice, they recollect, okay, sacrificing animals' life in yajna. That is called as yajna. No, that is wrong. So further, the author says, is there any salvation for our souls without noble deeds? Can peace and happiness reign supreme on earth in the hearts of individuals if selfless deeds are replaced by selfish deeds? The Vedas are quite empathetic in saying that without noble deeds, which inevitably involve some renunciation of personal comforts and pleasures, no soul can ever make any progress. Very, very clear. Without yajna, my Acharya always says, without doing yajna, nobody can attain moksha. He quotes one Rigveda mantra, Yajnenandram avasa chakre arvak. He says, Yajnena avasa means with the protection which is synonymous with yajna, the noblest deed, Indram chakre arvak enables the souls to progress. Again, Rigveda mantra 8 by 15 by 5 says, Yajna Indram avardayat means yajna, the most unselfish deed, avardayat, promotes the prosperity indram of the souls. Yes, yajna is a noble act, an unselfish deed, a sacrificial performance, but it is very ironical. The moment one hears the word yajna or sacrifice, one calls to one's mind the description of the ghastly acts of slaughter of innocent and harmless animals in the name of yajna in the medieval ages, not only in India but in other countries too. There is no denying the fact, a historical fact at that animal sacrifice were performed, causing pains to the thousands and thousands of dumb creatures for no fault of theirs. Bloody sacrifices where hundreds of poor, helpless and sinless animals were slaughtered did take place. But were they really sacrifices of the Vedic concept? The Vedas exhort each individual to sacrifice his or her own comforts, but in those cruel and disgusting sacrifices of the Tantric and Puranic concept, It was the poor animals that sacrificed their most valued and precious of all the possessions, that is, their own lives. Is the injuring or the killing of an innocent animal or the spilling of its blood any kind of noble deed? Certainly, it is a demonic act and not a noble one by any stretch of imagination. These violent and bloody sacrifices, which are diametrically opposite to the Vedic concept and to the spirit of yajna, are of a later origin. They have been a curse on humanity. They have cost too much so far as the Vedic Dharma is concerned. It was because of these inhuman and cursed acts of animal slaughter in the name of yajnas that pious, well meaning and noble hearted reformers like Lord Buddha and Lord Mahavira rebelled against the then prevailing form of the Hinduism and started their own religions. But the Vedas or Vedic Dharma is not to blame for it. The cause of the mischief lay in the insufficient knowledge of the Vedic terminology on the part of commentators who misinterpreted the Veda mantras. The wrong notion that the Vedic language and the Sanskrit language are identical is at the root of a good deal of misunderstanding. What a beautiful statement. The wrong notion that the Vedic language and the Sanskrit language are identical is the root of the misunderstanding. Because Vedic language and Sanskrit language are not same. The Sanskrit what we speak today is derived from Vedas, but the Vedas are not in this normal Sanskrit what we speak today. Vedas are divine Sanskrit which emanates in the heart of a yogi in Samadhi. In classical Sanskrit, the author says Ashwa means horse. In the Vedic dictation, it means souls, it also means horse, and it also means nation, and it also means might. In Sanskrit, Gau means cow, whereas in the Vedas, the word signifies earth. The word signifies sweet speech. The word signifies the perceptive faculties, and also the word signifies the sun rays, also besides signifying cow. While Aja means goat in the Sanskrit language, it means eternal soul or Almighty God in the Vedas. Not being well conversant with the Vedic language and also losing sight of the cardinal point that in Vedas the roots of the words are to be taken into consideration in preference to the prevailing meanings, which can never be constant in the very nature of the things. The erring commentators were themselves misled, and in their turn they never spared any effort in misleading others. According to the Vedas, the purification of the soul and strengthening of the nation is Ashwamedha. The purification of the speech and of the various faculties of perception, the fertilizing of the earth, and the proper use of the sun's rays are called as Gomedha. At ennobling of the soul is called as Ajamedha. As all these are really noble deeds, they are yajnas too. Where is any room for the violent act of slaughtering here? Where is any sanction for blood spilling? The Atharvaveda declares in unmistakable terms, Atharvaveda mantra says 10 by 1 by 29, Anago hattaya vai bhima krutye mano gamaksham purusham vadihi yatra yatrasi nihita tatstavo ta ya payamasi parnal ghiyasi bhava. Means, oh violence, kritiya means violence. Ana go hatya, the slaughter of the innocent creatures. Why Bhima is really dreadful. Ma vadihi, do not kill. Almighty God says, do not kill. Naha gam ashwam purusham, our cows, our horses, our men, and other embodied sentient beings. Yatra yatra nihita asi, wherever thou art lying concealed, tataha thence, uttapayamasi, lagiyasi bhava, be lighter, more trivial in our eyes, parnath, than a dread leaf. The mantra is outspoken and self-explanatory. Each believer who accepts the Vedas as infallible and final authority on the matters spiritual is herein taught to treat violence or causing of injury as a ghastly deed. It should have no place in his or her life. The destroying of sinless and harmless life is a dreadful act, says the Vedas. Can the same Vedas be said to applaud and prescribe animal slaughter in the yajnas? It is a simply fanatic and unimaginable translations. Priyaha Pashun Bhuyasam, Atharvaveda 17 by 1 by 4. It says, may I be dear to all the animals. Mitrasya aham chakshusha sarvani bhutani samikshe. Yajurveda 36 by 18 says, may I look at all the creatures with the eyes of a friend. Well, this is how we are taught to pray in the Vedas. Vedas says, Yan nunam ashyam gatim mitrasya yayam pata asya priyasya sharmana ya hinsanasya shaschire. If ever with certainty I make a move, I tread only the path of the friendship. For under the solace giving shelter of this dear and non-violent friend, all livings being unite. This is the craving of the humble follower of the Vedic Dharma. Can animal slaughter in the yajna go well with these noble sentiments? Nowhere in the Vedas do we find even the faintest trace of any sanction for the sacrifices of this violent kind. Nor is this surprising, for how can the Vedas, which preach universal love and awaken the spirit of unity, eulogize blood spilling? And further he quotes Yajurveda 40 by 7, which says, Yasminta sarvani bhutatmaiva bhudvijanatah tatra ko moha kaha shoka ekatvam anupashyata. That in the state of realization in which to the enlightened soul all the living beings appear like his own soul, what confusion can there be? What grief can there be for that person who sees all the souls as he himself? Can anyone who subscribes to this great ideal of oneness be cruel to the dumb animals? In spite of the followers of different religions, that it is only the religions that preach absolute ahimsa, the glaring fact is that the principle of non-violence is as old as humanity itself. And it is the Vedas that expounded the principle quite unequivocally for the first time in the history of the mankind. Yajurveda 13 by 43 says, do not kill the cow, which is the splendor of life and which is inviolable. Yajurveda 13 by 47 says, do not kill this animal and unsplit the hooves. Yajurveda 13 by 49 says, do not kill the ox. Yajurveda 13 by 50 says, do not kill the sheep. Such are the Vedic injunctions. So this is a small, article written by the author, really beautiful. I request you to listen again and again and come out of this misconception that Vedas promote violence and killing of animals and human beings. Thank you so much. Namaste. Om.